Hello, today we'll be talking about throwing a football. My name is Rodolfo.
My name is Brian.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Brian.
So, what is throwing? Throwing is the act of launching an object into flight by one or both arms. How does one throw a football? There are four steps in throwing a football: early cocking, late cocking, acceleration, and follow through. Early cocking starts when you plant your foot and is continued to maximal shoulder abduction and internal rotation. Late cocking starts at maximal shoulder abduction and internal rotation and ends with the maximal shoulder external rotation. Then the acceleration phase starts at the maximal shoulder external rotation and ends with ball release. Then the follow through starts at the release of the ball to the maximal horizontal adduction.
All right, so for classification of motor skill, we have a one dimension classification. So the first thing is gross motor skill, which is the lower musculature, meaning the shoulder joint all the way down to the arm. We also have discrete motor skill, meaning the ball will have an endpoint. It won't come back to us at any moment unless you're playing catch, which we aren't in this scenario. And then it's an open motor skill. For our second dimension classification, we have object manipulation, which is a football being thrown. Stationary conditioning, meaning we're not moving, we're just being stable and planted at all times. And then no inter-child variability, meaning that every single child will do is this, it would be the same thing, unless we were in a game or practice where each play could change every play we do. How the skill is practiced / transferred, we would do a transfer test to help us determine what the client or person did during practice and what they learned. And then we will try to replicate that the same way as the practice and during the test. We can also do Bernstein's ideas of freezing and freeing degrees of freedom, meaning reducing the movements that we teach the person. Hopefully they can understand it more with less movements taught to them. And then for practice, the only way to practice it really is to spending time doing the motor skill itself. That's the way to achieve it. And then we also have open versus closed loops, meaning open, meaning we give them feedback every single time they do it, or every few times they do it, versus closed, where we give them no feedback at all and see how that helps them. It really depends on each individual as which feedback they prefer.
So a novice learner generally only knows the basic things in everything they do. For this, it would be football. They only know the basic things like gripping a ball on the laces, throwing with their dominant arm, and throwing while standing, and throwing power. Expert learners, they know more advanced things like how to spot a ball accurately, where to grip the ball with the laces to maximize power and accuracy, how to use their lower body for support and on the run throwing, and then developing different angles instead of just straight throwing over the top. And then we have two videos, novice and expert. The first one will be a novice thrower.
Go. Go. Go.
And then our second one would be the expert. All right, notice the differences in between both of the throwers. The novice not really looking fluid in his movements, not the correct foot forward, no power. He wasn't even gripping the laces. Didn't really look like he knew what he was doing. To the expert, perfect spiral, perfect accuracy, fluid. You could just tell the experience and the knowledge difference from both.
So for our two observation techniques, I put both prescriptive and descriptive feedback. So for prescriptive feedback, that is correcting the learner on perfecting the movement. And some examples I put for when throwing a football could be keep your eyes pointed at your target, or rotating your lower body when you throw the ball. And this essentially allows the learner to be critiqued and essentially learn to perfect this movement. As for descriptive feedback, that is describing what the learner did. So this could be such as you release the ball too late, which is why the ball is traveling low. This will help the learner with fixing their mistakes on things they already know, so it won't really mess them up with prescriptive.
Feedback techniques for teaching. So one of them is augmented feedback, and that's performance-related influence typically from an external source. Then one of the two types of augmented feedback is knowledge of results. That's basically a coach can tell the learner how they miss, if it's either high or low, or to the right, to the left. Then intrinsic feedback, that is sensory information that is naturally available. So the learner gives their own feedback, like if they need to grip the football more or less.
For a demonstration, I have broken it down into 6 steps. It is similar to our first slide. I've broken them down into my own steps, and I have a video for us to watch.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to throw a football in 6 different steps. So I've broken down the steps into hand placement, stance, loading, throw, release, and follow through. So our first step is going to be your hand placement. So you're going to want to place your hand at the end of the football using the laces as a grip so it doesn't slip out of your hand. Our second step is going to be stance. So when throwing the football, you want a nice stable base. And this is going to give you the balance that you need when throwing the ball. And you're going to want to have kind of a side profile and looking at your target. And this will obviously create that looking at your target when throwing the ball. Our third step is loading. So by loading, I mean you want to shift your weight into your back foot, about 80 to 90% of your weight into your back foot. And this is where your power comes from. This is going to create the power and that shift through your body. So it's kind of that beginning phase to your power and your distance. Our fourth is going to be the throw. So by throw, I mean the motion after the loading, which is going to be the separation of your hip and your upper body to create the speed and the power from your throw. The release, so in football, you need different distances and obviously different speeds. So the higher your trajectory, the farther your ball is going to go. It's going to give it that max distance. And the lower the trajectory is kind of that faster, shorter throw. So it varies upon throws, but different trajectories need different releases. And when you release the ball, you're going to want to kind of use your hand as a spin, and that creates that spiral when throwing the football that you see with most quarterbacks. And the last step is going to be your follow through. So you're going to want to use your momentum that your body has created and use that kind of throwing through the ball. And this creates the maximal distance and speed from the follow through. So I'm now going to demonstrate by throwing at the pillow. This green pillow right here, right there. So I will first do it slowly, rehearsing through the steps. So I have my grip, I have my nice stable base, I have my loading, my separation, my release, and then obviously my follow through. And as you can see, I didn't really load and follow through much into that throw because it was soft. So that's what I mean by getting the maximal speed and distance from your throw. So now we'll do it with the same pillow. Thank you very much.
So we talked about it earlier on the four steps: the early cocking, the late cocking, the acceleration, the follow through. We were just reiterating everything. So the 4 sequential phases of football throw were consistently observed. Early cocking was initiated at the rear foot plant and continued to maximal shoulder abduction and internal rotation. Late cocking started at the maximal shoulder abduction and internal rotation and ended with maximal shoulder external rotation. The acceleration phase began with maximal shoulder external rotation and ended with the ball release. Fall through was defined as the phase from the ball release to maximal horizontal adduction.
Mm.